Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Yashodanandana Raja Janarandana Nativa Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Radha Madhava Radha, Jaya Radha Samasundara Samasundara, Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Nitya Go Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba, Hare Ba. Parvati Sudar Sudashri Divine Guest, Apachan Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Iskan Pamachari Divine Guest Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Vishnu Paparam Parvati Sudar Sudashri Divine Guest, Shri Bhakti Swami Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Anand Guru Vaishnava ki jai, Namacharya Viras Thakur ki jai, Prince Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Gaura Bhakta Ki Jai Shri Shiva Hare Krishna Gopal Shyam Radha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Vandanachaman Bhagavad-gita Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory is to the simple devotees. All glory, Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. All glory, Shri Prabhupada Ki.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, welcome to this evening's Bhagavad-gita overview. We are going to be covering chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, 42 verses. Let us do the invocation. Om Jnanatimi Vandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasme Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, Bhagavad-gita as it is, we're going to be covering chapter 4 overview based on the teachings of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So let us cover some feedback, get some feedback from yesterday's class. What did you learn from yesterday? What you took, what you found interesting, what you found revealing, something that you are going to try to apply or take home. Let us know in the chat, or you can unmute and share with us. Anyone likes to share? It's important to share. Krishna explains in Bhagavad-gita that
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Viresh, let me just tell everyone.
Finish, yes.
Yes, so Krishna tells us in Bhagavad-gita that when devotees come together, we discuss Bhagavad-gita. So I'm going over the overview, but it's in fact more important to have a discussion. When we have a discussion, then the points that we're discussing become more solidly fixed in our consciousness. And if there's any doubts, that becomes purified, it becomes clarified. So it's very important to get feedback, to hear other people's points of view, how Bhagavad Gita applies in their life, etc. So it's very, very important. Yes, Viresh.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, what you're just saying is sort of making sense. I was thinking yesterday that we're going through this entire Bhagavad Gita, an hour a day for a few days, a week or so. And obviously we won't be doing justice to it. There's so many other, like this is a lifetime activity, life after life. We're supposed to be going through Bhagavad Gita. So what you just said is also what I was thinking yesterday. And then the other thing I wanted to speak about is the whole topic of lust that came up yesterday. So I'm looking at in our, well, it's a universal Sanatan Dharma, but the one we are following in that context, we sort of other religions have, like, there's a bad guy and a good guy, the Satan or Jesus, or maybe I don't know what Islam's got it as non-Muslims or Muslims or something. Might be a way of thinking of their so-called bad factor. But it seems like in our philosophy that people like Kamsa and Ravana and other demons, Hiranyakashipu, they were victims or prisoners of their own false ego or lust, which became lust, and then anger. Obviously, we've seen them very angry in their behavior and accusations. So I'm just trying to think that it's a very fine line between a devotee and a demon, asura and asura, basically, or the demigods and the demons.
Yes.
So it's just that lust, that they fall victim to lust, and that's it. That's what makes them demons, as opposed to being so close to being a devotee of the Lord. If they just, control that and concentrated on serving instead of dominating certain circumstances.
Very good. So you're bringing, some important points that's also relevant to today's topic. The first point you brought about, it's impossible, whether if you do Bhagavad Gita lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime for eternity, you would never completely exhaust the understanding that you can get from each of the verses. We're just doing an overview. Srila Prabhupada said that even if you study, not just read, not just do an overview, if you study all 18 chapters, every single day, not one a week, every single day, all 18 chapters, Srila Prabhupada said every single day you will find something new. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita is not different from Krishna. So if we understand that, what we're really doing is, besides even trying to understand the philosophy and apply it, we simply associating with Bhagavad Gita. And by that association, our love develops, our attachment develops for Krishna. So that's the first point. Your second point in terms of lust, and other devotees also making that point, it's crucial and important that we understand that every single living entity in this world, in this universe, is influenced by lust to some degree or other. If we were not influenced by lust, we would not be here. And we're not talking about those Nitya Siddha devotees that descend from the spiritual world, just like Jesus Christ, Srila Prabhupada, all the acharyas, they descend from the spiritual world to this material world to help and deliver fallen souls. But otherwise, every other living entity is bound by influence of lust because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. That's why we are here. So what to talk about Kamsa and Ravana, even we are influenced by lust. Just the desire to enjoy the senses, whether it's enjoying a sun ray, or whether it's enjoying a tomato, or whether it's enjoying diamonds, we all are influenced by lust. Just the fact that we want to speak and hear ourselves means we influenced by lust. So everyone, and yes, to the degree one is influenced by lust, to that degree one is a non-devotee. And in all traditions, in Islam, they also have these aspects of pleasing Allah or not pleasing Allah. In the Bible also, it is very clear. We know that Adam and Eve were in the kingdom of, in paradise, in the kingdom of God. And what they did, they fell prey to the apple. They enjoyed the apple, which means they had lust to exploit the resources and enjoy the facilities of the Lord. So yes, every single person is influenced. And if you look at this picture, we find this picture is illustrating very clearly that when we have lust and that lust is not satisfied, and here one aspect of lust is to speak nonsense. And people like to speak nonsense because it gives them pleasure. And that when that lust is not satisfied, then that nonsense even becomes anger. And when it becomes anger, we start speaking things that are destructive to each other. So we should always keep the philosophy in our consciousness so that we can use Buddhi Yoga, we can use this philosophy to apply in our life to live the Bhagavad-gita. One time, one person came to Srila Prabhupada and said, "Oh, Prabhupada, I know Bhagavad-gita. I know many verses in Bhagavad-gita." And Prabhupada said, "Well, are you living Bhagavad-gita?" So that's the key, how to live Bhagavad-gita. Thank you for that. Let us discover a few. Your final words make everything about Lord Krishna. Was about make everything about Lord Krishna. Yes, so we want to Prabhupada said dovetail, we want to transform, we want to make sure everything is transformed so that Krishna is in the center. Mother Hemavati said, love is only meant for Krishna. We dovetail our activities, devotional service, and transform our lust into love. Yes. Sukadev Goswami said, must try to cut lust from the beginning. Lust is born out of passion. Yes. The sooner you recognize, oops, I got this is lust, and I try to break that. I try to check that. And the best way to break it is take your bead bag and start chanting. Put a kirtan on, start chanting. That's the best way to intercept, to break. It's actually, one is advanced if one can do that right from the beginning. Because most people are influenced by lust and they don't even know it. And Raksha said, love is Krishna in the center. Yes, and lust is me in the center. Hemavati Radhika also said, also love brings us closer to Krishna, and lust takes us away. Yes. Nimai Thakur, we must surrender everything to Lord Krishna. Correct. We must surrender our mind, our body, our words, everything. Why? Because actually it is his. It's not ours in the first place. So really we're not surrendering anything. We can only surrender something that's ours. So really in essence, the only thing that belongs to me is me. But even me, I belong to Krishna. So it's interesting how nothing belongs to us, and Krishna is giving us the opportunity to use it in his service for our purification and happiness. Manohar Thakur said, love brings closer to Krishna and lust does not. Yes. One must, Sukadeva Goswami, offer food to Krishna first. Very, very important. Prabhupada said, if you can simply chant Hare Krishna with your tongue and eat Krishna Prasad, and just focus on these two activities, whatever you put in your mouth should only be Krishna Prasad, you will make rapid spiritual advancement. Dwarkadam Prabhu says, yoga ladder makes easy when I go selling Bhagavad-gita to explain the steps. Yes, if we explain the yoga ladder, everyone is on the yoga ladder on different ranks. And our goal is to keep going until the top. Then Raksha also said, lust takes us away from Krishna. Mukund learning about the yoga ladder. Very good. Rasastali says, nothing matters, no relationships, no material work or activities. Nothing matters because everything without Lord Krishna is lust or enjoying separately without the Lord. So if we eat Krishna Prasad, dance for Krishna, sing about Krishna, and if we speak about Krishna. So for me, I took a very important message of association is so important because of this material world. We should rather associate with those whose association will make you want to eat Krishna Prasad or sing and dance for Lord Krishna and discuss Krishna Katha. Yes. And today's chapter is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. And it is transcendental knowledge that allows us to understand what to do and what not to do. So when we understand what is ideal, what is proper for us, then we will embrace what is conducive for the living entity. Raksha said, as you offer to the Lord, you will become more patient, more and grateful to offer to the Lord sincerely. Yes. Lalita said, speak words which Krishna likes. Very important. Mother Jahnavi said, engage all your senses in devotional service. And Lalita Hari said, every small service brings us closer to Krishna. Yes, very, very good. So thank you very much for sharing. When you share, it also reminds everyone about the subject, because in Kali Yuga, Srila Prabhupada said our memory is very small. That's why we need memory sticks, because we can't recollate, we can't remember everything. We don't have Shrutidhar memory, right? Anybody else would like to speak on via your audio? If not, we can proceed.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, I just feel the one that we're talking about performing one's duty. And since most of us today are in the working class situation, I just felt that as we perform our duty, especially if we're working, and you mentioned, if we offer that or we do it as a sacrifice or to please Lord Krishna, this will bring us so much of more enlightenment, and also it will free us from our previous entanglement. So that made me think a lot, and I feel like, at least now you feel like going to work, thinking you're doing it for the Lord.
Yes, you raise a very, very important principle and point. Normally when devotees, I mean, I'm also working in the corporate world, and when devotees ask me, how's your work? For me, my corporate work is not material. And when they ask me, how's your work? I said, very nice, blissful, wonderful. Why? Because my work is not material. And why is it not material? Because I'm working to get the fruits, which is Lakshmi. And I'm using the Lakshmi only in relation to Krishna. So my work, just like Arjuna is fighting on the battlefield. He's not chanting, he's not doing kirtan on the battlefield. He's not doing deity worship on the battlefield. He's a warrior. He's shooting arrows. He's killing. So we're not killing, but we're also doing occupation. We're doing some work, whether it's on the keyboard or filing or any paperwork. We're doing work. So when Arjuna, Krishna told Arjuna how to work, similarly, when we understand how to work in this material world, so that our work is not on the material plane, it transcends the material plane, then you'll find that even your work is blissful. Your work does not bind you. Your work is not stressful. You have to learn this art. Everything that we do, Srila Jiva Goswami describes this point, and he makes the point that, for example, brushing one's teeth. Brushing one's teeth really has nothing to do with pleasing Krishna. But when you connect it, when you bring it in the perspective of Krishna consciousness. So for example, I need to brush my teeth so that I can eat Krishna Prasad, because Krishna Prasad is non-different from Krishna. So I need clean teeth to eat, to honor Krishna Prasad. Then all I did now is I transformed my brushing into devotional service, into Krishna consciousness. So in that way, every activity will never ever bind us when we connect it to Krishna consciousness. So very, very wonderful point. And Nalini Kanta says the fish needs water The soul needs environment of love, spiritual world. Yes. The more we understand that, the more we get that, then we will take spiritual life very seriously. And the more we get it, the more we'll embrace spiritual life. Wonderful. Thank you very much for everyone sharing. Let us proceed. Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge. So the summary of Transcendental Knowledge, Chapter 4, Transcendental Knowledge, the spiritual knowledge of the soul, of God, and their relationship is both purifying and liberating. Such knowledge is the fruit of selfless devotional action, karma yoga. The Lord explains the remote history of the Gita and the purpose of significance of his periodic descent to this material world, and the necessity of approaching a guru, a self-realized teacher. So this chapter 4 has 5 sections: transcendental knowledge about Krishna, applying transcendental knowledge to work, understanding karma on the platform of Gyan, transcendental knowledge, sacrifice leads to transcendental knowledge, and then conclusion. The first section, which is focusing transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So second chapter, in the previous chapter, third chapter, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that you need to use deliberate spiritual intelligence to curb lust. So in this chapter, immediately Krishna begins to share transcendental knowledge. Compared to the transcendental knowledge in chapter 2. In chapter 2, we heard about transcendental knowledge in relation to the spirit soul, us, the living entity. Now, in relation to this chapter, we're going to be hearing about transcendental knowledge about Krishna. So both are transcendental knowledge. One is about the living entity, and now Krishna is going to reveal transcendental knowledge about himself. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Vacha imam vishvate yogam proktavan aham avyayam vivasvan manye papraha manur ishvakke brahvet. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Lord Shri Krishna said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivashvan, and Vivashvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ishvaku. So Krishna explains and tells us that this science was spoken by him to the sun god. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is going to tell us about the timing, how long this was. Text 2 and 3, Evam param praptam imam raja soyovidu sakalana mahata yogo nashtaparantapa. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in the course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend, and can therefore understand the transcendental mystery of the science. So Krishna is revealing a very, very important principle in spiritual life, which is parampara, disciplic succession. We need to have a disciplic succession of spiritual masters, teachers that are coming in line. Teacher, guru. The guru becomes a teacher. Then he has the disciple becomes a guru, and then that disciple becomes a guru. In this way, there's a chain, and that knowledge is coming down in this chain of spiritual teachers. And it's very, very important because we want to learn about the Supreme Lord. And through our own efforts, it's impossible to learn about the Supreme Lord. We find that Krishna says, Prabhupada writes in the first verse, originally Krishna spoke Bhagavad-gita to Vivashvan, the sun god, and that was such a long time ago that we cannot even imagine. Vivashvan then spoke the Bhagavad-gita to his son Manu, who is the father of mankind. And then in turn, Manu spoke the same Bhagavad-gita to Ishvaku, who 2,500,000 years ago was the king of this earth planet. We can understand then that Bhagavad-gita has been present in human society for at least 2,500,000 years from the time when Manu instructed it to his son Ishwaku, who was then the king of this whole planet. So Bhagavad-gita is eternal. It's given to the kings that come yuga after yuga after yuga. It's not that Bhagavad-gita is only 5,000 years ago. 5,000 Krishna spoke to Arjuna, but before that, he spoke it to many personalities. And we know that this teachings of Bhagavad-gita is eternal, which means universe, in every universe it's spoken, and it's eternal. It's not that the message is going to change. Just like a postman, we find that the postman takes the message, and all it does is it delivers the message. He does not change the message, he does not tamper with the message. All he does is deliver. Similarly, the disciplic succession, all they do is they deliver the message in the appropriate way without interpretation, without concocting, or without changing the message. The medium may change. So for example, previously there was mail, or letters. And now, letters are very seldom do people send letters now. Now it's email. So the medium has changed, but the mechanism of delivering the message as it is, should still be there. Similarly, in disciplic succession, we find that the message should never change. And if there's a bona fide disciplic succession, as we see in the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya, we find that the Krishna spoke Bhagavad-gita, spoke of the message of spiritual life to Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma spoke to Narad Muni, and in this way, the knowledge comes down right to the present time. Srila Prabhupada is giving us this message. So it's very, very fortunate to have a disciplic succession where we know the knowledge is not tampered with. The knowledge is not there to make money. It's there simply to benefit living entities, benefit us, the souls in this material world. This example of an elephant, 4 blind men were asked to identify an elephant. So each one is holding different parts of the elephant, and naturally they're not going to get the full picture. Somebody that's holding the trunk, they saying that elephant is like a big snake. Somebody that's holding the tail, he's going to say, well, it's like a rope, etc. So a blind man cannot give you complete knowledge. We need the disciplic succession to give us knowledge. There's 3 ways, predominantly main ways to get knowledge. One is pratyaksha, direct perception. The other is anuman, inference or logic. And the third way is shabda, spiritual sound or Vedic authority. With pratyaksha, direct perception, like in this picture, we find if your senses are not working, you cannot get perfect knowledge. Or even if you look at the sun, you see it like a small disk, but it's so huge. So with our senses, it is limited and imperfect. With logic and inference, we can conclude or we can get some knowledge, but you cannot get knowledge of spiritual subject matters of the Supreme Lord with logic. Because Krishna's energies are unlimited and inconceivable. They can also be contradictory. So therefore, with logic, it will contradict your logical conclusions. The best way to get knowledge is Shabda Praman, spiritual sound vibration. And that sound vibration, that's transcendental knowledge, is coming through disciplic succession. In text 4, Arjuna said, the sun god, Vivashwan, is senior by birth to you. How can I understand that in the beginning you instructed the science to him? So very, very valid question, because Arjuna and Krishna, they're contemporaries, they're friends. So he's asking a very pertinent and valid question. Like, Krishna, hold on, you say you spoke this to sun god, that's millions of years ago. What do you mean? I'm a fool. I'm not a fool. How can you? That's impossible. No, I don't believe that. So now Krishna begins to explain why. The personality of God had said, many, many births both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot, O subdue of enemies. Here's a first philosophical point to prove if somebody is God, they should remember every single birth. Krishna remembers every single birth, so he knows exactly what he did in every incarnation, in every time period that he appears in this material world, whereas a conditioned soul cannot. Although I'm unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of all living entities, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form. We do not appear in our transcendental form. We are conditioned and we take on a material form. Krishna, he appears as he is in his transcendental form, original transcendental form. So Krishna, who's speaking on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, he is the Supreme Lord, non-different. He comes with his original form, and that is Krishna. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice or descent of Bharata, and a predominant rise of e-religion, at that time I descend myself. Krishna is now describing why he appears in this world, to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I appear millennium after millennium. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, Arjuna. So very, very important verse Krishna is explaining, text 9, that we need to know the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities. That is why it's so important to learn Bhagavad-gita, so important to learn Srimad Bhagavatam, because Bhagavad-gita is spoken by Krishna about himself. Srimad Bhagavatam is the glories and activities of Krishna and his devotees. So very, very important to know this subject matter. And if we know the subject matter in truth, Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha. Tattvata means in truth. If we know Krishna's activities in truth, then we will not take punarjanma. We will not take birth again in this material world. Being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attained transcendental love for me. So Krishna is describing the result and also what we need to do. If we become free from attachments, material attachments, fear and anger, which come from lust, and we become absorbed in Krishna, our mind is always attracted to Krishna. We constantly thinking of Krishna, and we take refuge in Krishna. Then many persons in the past have become purified by knowledge of Krishna, by associating with Krishna, and they attain Krishna's transcendental nature. So our life should be molded around this. From the time we wake up till the time we take rest, this is what we should be doing. And the beauty is, if we do this throughout our wakeful state, when we go take rest, then also in our dream state, we will be thinking of Krishna. We will be contemplating Krishna. We will be hearing Bhagavad-gita. We will be preaching, taking prasad, having kirtan, even in our dreams. In regards to text 10, with attachment, Srila Prabhupada in the purport discusses this aspect of attachments, and he talks about 3 forms of attachments. And Prabhupada says one has to get rid of all 3 stages of attachments to the material world. One is negligence of spiritual life. So many people neglect spiritual life. Why? Because they're attached to everything else. You tell people chant Hare Krishna, no, I don't have time. You tell people read Bhagavad-gita, no, I don't have time. I'm too busy. Well, they're busy because they're not interested in spiritual life. So they neglect spiritual life due to material attachments to everything else. Then there's attachment to fear of spiritual personal identity. People have relationships. They've been disappointed in so many ways. So they want to negate personality. They want to negate relationships. And the fear of a spiritual identity, spiritual conscious personality, that attachment to not having that is also an obstacle. And then the conception of void that arises from frustration in life. You go through situations and trauma and you think, hey, this is, we should just have nothing to do with this. We want to negate everything. I think the Buddhist philosophy of nirvana, merging with, nothing, is very, very, very wonderful, because then if there's nothing, there's no suffering. But that doesn't exist. So these attachments need to be eradicated. And we should remove these attachments, and we should become attached to Krishna. Become attached to Krishna's devotees. Become attached to Krishna's process, loving Krishna. The difference between Krishna and the conditioned souls. Krishna is eternal and remembers the past, present, and future. He is a tutor, never forgets, infallible. Remembers all his births because the body does not change or deteriorate. He appears by his own will. His body is transcendental, and there's no difference between his body and the self. Whereas the conditioned soul is eternal but forgets. He forgets because the body changes and deteriorates. He's forced to appear by karma. The body is material, and the soul acquires an external, gross, or subtle body. So it's clear that the living entity is not God. In the second chapter, we already clarified that as well. Here in this chapter, we're getting further clarifications. Prabhupada says to think you are God is the last snare of Maya. So we have to understand, I am not God, I am a servant of God. And everyone is a servant of God. Section 2, applying transcendental knowledge to work. So verses 11 to 15. As all surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. So very wonderful. Krishna is making the point that as you surrender to him, he rewards you accordingly. Which means if you surrender 5%, Krishna reciprocates 5%. You surrender 50%, he reciprocates 50%. You surrender completely, he surrenders completely. So if you say, well, I don't have time for God, no problem. Krishna won't have time for you. And the more we understand that actually I need Krishna, Krishna doesn't need me. It is I who have separated, just like the ocean doesn't need the fish, but the fish needs the ocean. The fish needs the water. The ocean by nature, by its just constitution, is made of water. So the ocean doesn't need water. It's made up of water. But the fish needs water. So we need Krishna. And therefore it behooves us to really apply this knowledge, contemplate on it, and understand, yes, why would the acharyas coming in disciplic succession lie to us? Why would Srila Prabhupada lie to us? He was 72 years old. He had no motive to make money. Even if he cheated us, there would really be no ultimate benefit, because he's so old. And we know Srila Prabhupada didn't go across the ocean to go to America and spread Krishna all around the world to cheat people. Because the acharyas coming in our line are pure representatives of Krishna. And Krishna will never cheat us. He's our supreme father. Just like a genuine father will not cheat his children, similarly, Krishna will never cheat the living entities. His representatives will never cheat us. Therefore, we should have firm faith and accept. Men in this world desire success in fruitive activities. Therefore, they worship the demigods. Quickly, of course, man gets the result from fruitive work in this world. According to the 3 modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the 4 divisions of human society are created by me. And although I'm the creator of the system, you should know that I'm yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. There is no work that affects me, nor do I aspire for fruits of actions. One who understands this truth about me also does not become entangled in fruitive reactions of work. All the liberated souls in ancient time acted with this understanding of my transcendental nature. Therefore, you should perform your duty following in their footsteps. The great Mahajans, we have to follow them. Now, Krishna makes the point that everyone follows his path. If you take the yoga ladder, Krishna made the yoga ladder, which means every living entity can be placed on the yoga ladder. And that implies that they're all following Krishna's system at different stages in the yoga ladder. The goal is to help people understand and move higher. If they're open to understanding, we can present a higher understanding so that they can go higher. So if we look, for example, Krishna reciprocates based on desires. If the devotee is fruitive, like in text 12, they want to worship demigods, then Krishna is there as Yagneshwar to give them the results. Those who are impersonalists, they want to merge with the light effulgence of Krishna and the Brahma Jyoti. So Krishna gives them that opportunity to merge. Even though it's a temporary position, they'll merge there. He gives them an opportunity. They become agitated, they fall down. The yogis, they want mystic powers. So Krishna gives them that. They get mystic, they perform yoga for 60,000 years. They get mystic powers. They may exploit those mystic powers, and then eventually they fall back or fall down, and then they have to keep progressing. Or if they're fortunate to meet a pure devotee, then they can go higher on the yoga ladder. And then the devotees who want a relationship with Krishna in the 5 different rasas, then Krishna also gives them, fulfills their desires. So Krishna fulfills everyone's desire. If you don't want him, tatastu, he will fulfill your desire. You want him, he will fulfill that desire. Krishna never forces himself on anyone. He leaves everyone, he gives everyone the free will and leaves them to decide how they want to act and surrender to him. Krishna talked about demigod worship. So let's just understand the demigods, they are also servants of Krishna, but they are circumdevotees. They have desires, material desires, but because of their piety, they have positions in this universe, 330 million demigods, each one in charge of different bodily function and or even natural elements. And they in charge working on behalf of Krishna. And Krishna provides heavenly pleasures to them because that's what they want. So they're servants who have material desires. Now, if you look at demigods in relation to Lord Krishna, there are many demigods, but there's only one Supreme Lord, Krishna. The demigods are part and parcels of Krishna, and Krishna is the Supreme Whole. The demigods, they always worship the Supreme as obedient servants. Lord Krishna is the supremely worshipable personality. Demigods are created by the Supreme, whereas Lord Krishna is the creator. The demigods exist within the material world only, and Krishna is beyond material creation. The demigods are delegated with various grades of power to manage the affairs of the universe, and Krishna is the supreme controller. The demigods are subjected to the will of the Supreme, whereas Krishna is supremely independent. The demigods have material bodies, hence subject to birth, old age, and disease and death, even though it's very temporary, very short-lived. But Lord Krishna has completely spiritual body, no birth, no death, no old age, no disease. The demigods come under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature to different extent, and Krishna is completely beyond the influence of 3 modes of material nature. The demigod's post is also temporary, even though it's millions of years, but it's temporary. And Lord Krishna is eternally the same Supreme Lord. And the Lord also describes that he created the Varnashram system, the 4 social and spiritual orders. So these orders of Brahmacharya or Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, the different classes according to guna and karma, according to one's qualities and according to one's activities. It's not by birth. We all have certain inclinations that we come with due to our qualities, due to our guna. And according to our activities, we would then love to do certain activities. Just like some people, they love to study. Others, they like to protect. They like to be like in the police department. Others, they like to make money. Others like to do hard work. So each one has a certain inclination, and we should be doing something according to our inclination, according to our guna and karma, because then it resonates naturally for us. And then in that occupation, we simply bring Krishna and dovetail that occupation in relation to Krishna, and we will be very happy working according to our guna and karma. Section 3, now understanding karma on the platform of Gyan. From 16, Krishna says, even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now I shall explain to you what is action, knowing which you shall be liberated from all misfortune. So now the Lord is going to really go into using transcendental knowledge, describing action and inaction. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what is inaction. So action means where I'm acting and there is a reaction. Forbidden action is where I'm acting, but the result is negative. So therefore, there is a vikarma, forbidden action. Action is generally good karma, good activities, which means good results. Forbidden action, vikarma, is action that produces bad results, sinful activities. And inaction, which is called akarma. So there's karma, vikarma, and akarma. Karma is action, good actions. Vikarma is forbidden actions. And akarma, with the A means negative, akarma in Sanskrit, is inaction. It does not mean that you are not acting, just like in these two pictures, one in the center and one on the left. In the center, we find the devotees are acting. We find the yogi, it seems like he's not acting. He's just sitting there for thousands and thousands of years. But what determines action and inaction is not the external activity, it's not external motions. It's the inner consciousness. It's the focus. What are you thinking of? What is your intention? So if you look at these devotees in the center, they are all thinking of Krishna. So therefore, because they're acting and thinking of Krishna, that is inaction, akarma. That means there is no material reaction there. So very wonderful. That is how we become free from karma. If you look at the yogi, now the yogi, he's not acting. He's sitting there for 60,000 years, motionless, looks like he's not doing anything. But what is going on in his consciousness? He may be thinking of getting married. He may be thinking of money. He may be thinking of so many material desires. He may be thinking of mystic powers. Oh, I want mystic powers. Oh, I want the position of Indra. Oh, I want to be Brahma. Oh, I want to go to heaven. That means even though he's externally not acting, he is engaged in action. So therefore, one who understands the intricacies can understand action, forbidden action, and inaction. Then Krishna says, one who sees inaction, inaction, and action, inaction, action in inaction, is intelligent among men. And he is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So I already explained. Krishna says, one who sees action, or rather, let's take the first one. One who sees inaction, inaction. So inaction means no reaction, akarma. And action means there is activity. So if we see the devotees, they are actually in the first category. Inaction, inaction. There is no karma, even though it seems like they're acting. And the second one, where there's action in inaction. The yogi apparently seems like he's inactive, right? He's not doing anything, inaction. But actually, he's getting a reaction. Therefore, his category is action in inaction. We find, for example, if we take this devotee that's cooking. So she's cooking and everybody else is also cooking. There may be others that are cooking. Her cooking and externally is equal to others cooking, non-devotees cooking. They're both cooking, they're both cleaning, cutting, etc. But one is acting with no reaction because it's focused on Krishna, and the other one is acting with action, with reaction, because they're not focusing on Krishna, it's for sense gratification. So we want to act where there's always in action, which means there is always a karma. There's always no reaction to our activities. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by sages to be a worker for whom the reaction of work has been burnt up by the fire of perfect knowledge. So very, very difficult for people in this world to work without desire for sense gratification. Everything they do, what's in it for me? I eat. Why? Because it tastes nice. I watch a movie. Why? Because it's pleasing to the eyes. Everything is about the senses. A devotee, he's trying to transcend that and trying to do everything that pleases Krishna. And the beauty is in the initial stages of bhakti yoga, of Krishna consciousness, we can do things that are pleasing to our senses. We just have to bring Krishna in that those activities. So, for example, if I like to eat something, let's say I like to eat pizzas. So therefore, I can offer that pizza to Krishna and then have it. In this way, I become purified, and slowly, as I become more and more pure, I'll then want to offer what Krishna likes, what's pleasing to Krishna, because that is what love is all about. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruit of actions, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So we act, we do so many activities, but we're not attached to the results of the activities. We are satisfied simply by the activities. Just like we may be hearing Bhagavad-gita. So just to hear Bhagavad-gita, and if one has that satisfaction to just simply hear Krishna consciousness, that is perfection. Whether I get purified, don't get purified, whether I get elevated, don't get elevated, I don't care. I'm happy just hearing about Krishna. That is the glorious position. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled, gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions, and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus working, he is not affected by sinful reactions. So just see how clear Krishna is presenting the transcendental knowledge of how we should work in this world, how we should act in this world. Very, very clear in terms of acting with mind, body, and words, free from proprietorship, free from possessiveness, and only for the bare necessities of life. Whatever you need to maintain body and soul together, that's the amount of effort and energy we should put, not more. If we have more than what we require, then we are wasting our time. We are abusing our time. All our time should be used to remember Krishna, to become Krishna conscious. Yes, we need bodily necessities. We need finance. We need a roof over our head. We need food on the table. And we should try to act appropriately according to our nature to get those bare necessities while depending on Krishna. And then work in such a way that we don't become entangled in this world. We want to be in this world, but not of this world. We want to be able to, enjoy being in this world, because Krishna already told us in the 3rd chapter, he created this world and he created in a way that we can be happy. So really we can use this world as a wonderful opportunity. And for devotees of the Lord, this material world is actually the greatest blessing, because we can get the bliss in this world that doesn't even exist in spiritual world. And what is that bliss? Krishna will tell us in the 18th chapter. What is that bliss? That bliss is sharing spiritual wisdom to others. When we engage in that activity, we derive great joy, because this gives Krishna great satisfaction. He who is satisfied with gain which comes on his own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled, although performing actions. So we should act. We should never be lethargic. We should never be lazy. We should never be inactive. But these are the traits and qualities by which we should act. We should be satisfied with what comes according to karma. It's amazing. If you really understand the law of karma, you will only get what you deserve. Nothing more, nothing less. Unless the Lord desires, he can change that. In the 9th chapter, Krishna will tell us that. But otherwise, you can strive and strive and strive and strive, but you will only get what you deserve. We should become free from dualities. And that's not easy, because the material world is infused with duality. Happiness and distress, kind and hatreds, success and failure, all different forms of duality. So we need to become free. Now the duality exists, which is wonderful, because then we can use that to see, am I rising above duality? Am I rising above pleasure and pain, success and victory? Am I just focused on whatever Krishna delivers, whatever Krishna wants me to have, and not envying? Sometimes we see, that devotee is advancing, that devotee is getting facility, that devotee, is getting material opulence, and we may be envying that. No, in the spiritual world, there is unlimited. The spiritual world is abundant. So even when we surrender to Krishna, there is abundant of everything. There is no limitation. And when we see devotees excelling, we should be grateful that it should increase our faith that those who surrender to Krishna, they will get. And if we simply follow in the footsteps, if we simply also surrender to Krishna, Krishna will also provide whatever we need. There is no lack in the spiritual world. There's no lack when we surrender to Krishna. The lack is because we lack faith. The lack is because we want to be independent. The lack is because we want to be proprietors. And therefore Krishna will allow us to go that route to teach us the lesson. It's the school of hard knots. Rather, we should be intelligent to accept what Krishna is saying and remove lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of suffering. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. So if we really work with knowledge that Krishna is sharing, then we can transcend this material world. And we come to section 4. Sacrifice leads to transcendental knowledge. Very, very wonderful section. Krishna is sharing that any form of sacrifice leads to transcendental knowledge. 25 to 28. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. And some offer sacrifices in fire of the Supreme Brahman. Some, the unadulterated brahmacharis, sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of mental control. And others, the regulated householders, sacrifice the objects of the senses in the fire of the senses. Others who are interested in achieving self-realization through control of the mind and senses offer the function of all the senses and of the life breath as oblations into the fire of the controlled mind. Having accepted strict vows, some become enlightened by sacrificing their possessions, and others by performing severe austerities, by practicing the yoga of eightfold mysticism, or by studying the Vedas to advance in transcendental knowledge. Whatever sacrifice you offer to the Supreme, that does not go in vain. Doesn't matter how big or how small, or what form or what shape. Every sacrifice, just like someone comes to the temple, the fact that they came to the temple, it's a sacrifice. The fact that they're seeing the Lord, they are spending their time to seeing the Lord, it's a sacrifice. They may give some Lakshmi and put it in the hundi box. It's a sacrifice. They may open Bhagavad-gita and read. It's a sacrifice. They may donate some fruit to people. It's a sacrifice. Whatever form of sacrifice, according to your position, according to your whatever is available to you, whatever sacrifice you perform, whatever sacrifice people perform, doesn't matter what tradition, what culture, what gender, what race, everyone in this world is performing some form of sacrifice. That sacrifice allows them to get greater and greater knowledge. So we should never discourage anyone, no matter where they are in their position. We want to help people increase their sacrifice. We want to help people purify the intention and motive behind the sacrifice. We want to help people connect and understand that ultimately all sacrifice is meant for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And by doing that, we are then doing justice. We are then helping people, we are helping people increase their attachment to Krishna and not chasing people away, not destroying whatever relationship, whatever connection, whatever progress they have made. So we should always honor and accept, be grateful, appreciate every single person's sacrifice, no matter what they're doing, and understand that everyone is on this journey of trying to revive the eternal relationship with Krishna. Krishna continues, still others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, practice by offering the movement of outgoing breath to the incoming and the incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Others, curtailing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. All these performers who know the meaning of sacrifice become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the results of sacrifices, they advance towards the supreme eternal atmosphere. O best of the Kuru dynasty, without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What then of the next? All these different types of sacrifices are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. O chester of enemies, the sacrifice performed in knowledge is better than mere sacrifice of material possessions. After all, the son of Pritha, all sacrifice of work culminate in transcendental knowledge. So Krishna is making it very clear that we should not discourage people from different forms of sacrifice. Doesn't matter what varna, what ashram you belong, what position you belong in this material world. We should encourage people to sacrifice. But, and that could be wealth, there could be time, it could be just like here Krishna is describing different activities that they sacrifice, sacrificing in, it doesn't matter. But the Lord is saying that when we sacrifice in knowledge, when we perform the sacrifice with proper understanding of why we're doing it, for who we're doing it, that is far better than just sacrifice material possessions. So in this way, we can help people understand the intention behind sacrifice, the motive behind sacrifice, why they're sacrificing. Not stopping them, but helping them purify their intention. And in this way, make further advancement. Similarly, when we're sacrificing, we should also understand why we're doing it. There may be many rituals that we perform as an act of sacrifice, but just the rituals on their own is great, but better than that is to put the spirit of devotion into those rituals. Then those rituals become spiritual, right? Spirit and ritual, it becomes spiritual. Then finally, section 5, conclusion. Wonderful section. Krishna now concludes this chapter by really glorifying the power of transcendental knowledge. He discusses how to achieve it, the fruit, who can achieve it, the symptoms of success, and then Krishna concludes. Text 34, very, very important. Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. So we are fortunate that we have Srila Prabhupada as the pure devotee of the Lord coming in disciplic succession, giving us his Bhaktivedanta purports. So we are truly blessed that by some great fortune, we have come in contact, by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, by the mercy of Krishna, we have come in contact with Srila Prabhupada, who is without doubt a pure devotee coming in disciplic succession. Through his activities, we can understand his glorious position. And he has given us everything in his books. Prabhupada said everything you need to know is in his books. 80 volumes of books Srila Prabhupada has given us. So we simply have to take our time and study, read Srila Prabhupada's books, and we will know everything that we need to perfect our life. Consider, none of us have learned our ABCs on our own. We had to have teachers to teach us even the basics of ABC, that this is A, this is how you write A. So what to talk about spiritual subject matters? We need a spiritual teacher. Those people who try to give spiritual knowledge without a teacher, they are simply fooling people. I remember years ago in Indonesia when we were staying there, there was a person who, so-called saintly person, who was giving a talk at one of the halls. So we went, and visited him, and he was, speaking, cracking a lot of jokes, entertaining people. So at the end, on a piece of paper, we wrote 2 questions. One is, who is your guru? And second question, who is God? And we made sure we write it on a piece of paper, so we didn't, because we don't want to show that we Hare Krishnas. And then we send the piece of paper, the question in front. So he got the question. Who is God? Who is your guru? He said, I don't need, and his response was, I don't need guru. I just read all the different books, and in this way I became educated. I don't need a guru. Krishna is saying here in text 34 that you need to learn this truth by approaching a spiritual master. And here is someone who's presenting himself as a saintly person, as a spiritual teacher without a guru. And everybody else that's sitting there, they didn't get that. Whereas we could immediately understand, hold on, that's already bogus. Because why? By the blessings of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada was able to open our eyes with a torchlight of knowledge. Prabhupada was able to guide us to understand what's bona fide and what's not. Then the second question, who is God? His response was, I am God. And everybody, accepted. Everybody's laughing. Everybody's, oh yeah, very good. He's God. And we're thinking, what nonsense. Already Krishna in this chapter covered so many aspects that we're not God. In fact, he went further. He said, not only I am God, even this microphone is God. So this is the cheating that is going out there. And Srila Prabhupada, by his mercy, we are getting the truth. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into illusion. For by this knowledge, you will see that all living beings are but a part of the Supreme, or in other words, they are mine. Not like this bogus person that is saying, I'm God. Krishna makes it very clear. No, we are all part and parcel of him. And because we belong to Krishna, that means we have a relationship with Krishna. Now we should be curious. What is my relationship with Krishna? What is my eternal relationship? Is it which one of the 5 rasas am I related to Krishna? When will Krishna reveal that? And Krishna will only reveal that if I have the strong desire for that. And I practice the process of Krishna consciousness to revive that relationship. So that should be the curiosity. That should be my intense desire. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. Now, if you the most sinful of all sinners, naturally you will not be exposed to transcendental knowledge on your own. By the mercy of the pure devotee, even if you're the most sinful of all sinners and you get Krishna consciousness and you get knowledge, the Lord is saying, it will purify you. You could be the biggest sinner on the planet. When you are put into the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to be purified. You'll be able to cross the ocean of miseries. That's the power of transcendental knowledge. There is no sin in this world that can stand the face and the power of transcendental knowledge, which is presented to us in Bhagavad-gita. So the knowledge that we are hearing, the knowledge that we are being exposed to, this knowledge is powerful. This knowledge is transcendental. It's coming from the lotus lips of Krishna. Therefore, it'll purify every single material desire in our heart. Simply constantly associate with this knowledge. Text 37, as a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Fire will burn wood to ashes. Similarly, transcendental knowledge will burn all our reactions to ashes. We simply have to constantly, daily, sattam kirtayantamam, nityam bhagavata sevaya. We have to constantly associate with transcendental knowledge. Instead of associating with mundane knowledge, reading newspaper, etc., just for entertainment or for pleasing the senses, we should take that time and associate with the transcendental knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge, and having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. So doubts are dangerous. We must have great faith. We must have firm faith in the process. And that's why the disciplic succession is there. Because the disciplic succession, these great personalities that are coming in disciplic succession, just by studying the characters, studying their lives, we can understand that they're very unique, they're very special. And this builds faith, this builds trust. And then with that trust, we can apply this knowledge with firm faith. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work or conqueror of riches. And then the last verse, therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge, armed with yoga or bharata. Stand and fight. So Krishna is concluding to Arjuna that he should use transcendental knowledge, destroy the doubts that are there, and this will be victorious. Prabhupada's purport. The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatan Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. This yoga has two divisions of sacrificial actions. One is called sacrifice of one's material possessions, and the other is called knowledge of the self, which is pure spiritual activity. In sacrifice of one's material possessions, if sacrifice of one's material possessions is not dovetail for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. But one who performs such sacrifices with a spiritual objective or in devotional service makes a perfect sacrifice. When we come to spiritual activities, we find that they are also divided into two, namely understanding of one's own self or one's constitutional position and the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One who follows the path of Bhagavad-gita as it is can very easily understand these two important divisions of spiritual knowledge. For him, there is no difficulty in obtaining perfect knowledge of the self as part and parcel of the Lord. And such understanding is beneficial, for a person can easily understand the transcendental activities of the Lord. And then two more purports quoted. In text 34, Prabhupada says, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. No one can be spiritually realized by manufacturing his own process, as is the fashion of the foolish pretenders. And then purport to text 41. One who follows the instructions of Bhagavad-gita as it is imparted by the Lord, the personality of Godhead himself, becomes free from all doubts by the grace of transcendental knowledge. He, as part and parcel of the Lord, is in full Krishna consciousness, is already established in self-knowledge. As such, he is undoubtedly above bondage to actions. So very, very wonderful chapter. And now I'm going to conclude this chapter with a 6 minutes clip, and then we will end. We will not take any questions. If there's any questions, we'll take that tomorrow. This video clip is called The Wrong Bank Account. We are using resources, we are spending our time, and it is very, very crucial as we went through this chapter. Krishna is advising that we use our time wisely in Krishna consciousness for Krishna's pleasure. Otherwise, it is like the wrong bank account.
Good afternoon. I'd like to open a bank account.
No problem. Your name, please?
George. George Millhouse is the name.
Very well, Mr. Millhouse. And here's your account number.
Here's my deposit. Got to think ahead now. You know, save for the future. I'm going to get married soon. Send the kids to school. Buy that house in the country. Think big. That's my motto.
Glad to have your account, Mr. Millhouse.
I know my money will be safe with your bank.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Millhouse.
Bye. Bye.
Good afternoon, George. On time as usual?
Yeah, it's been 7 years now, and I haven't missed a week yet. Here's my deposit.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I just got a pay rise, but it's all going in your bank. I've really got to think of the future now, you know. The kids will be going to college before you know it, and the wife, well, she's got to have that fur coat, and the mortgage payments on the house. Oh, yes, they have to be met. Come to think of it, I've been planning on getting a second job, maybe work nights.
Well, I like a man with your ambition, George. You really work hard for your money. But don't worry, it'll all come back to you one day.
Oh, thanks a lot. That's really nice. Oh no, it's really getting late. I've got to get back to work. I'll see you next week.
Good afternoon, George.
Bye.
Bye.
Good afternoon, Jane. I'm on time as usual. Haven't missed a week in 25 years. Here you are.
Thanks a lot, George. By the way, how are your kids these days?
Oh, I don't see much of them these days. The boys away on business again. And the girls, they don't write very much. Well, that's life, I suppose. Oh, is that a brand new watch?
Yes, it's a gold watch. The company gave it to me for all the years I've been in this job. I'm going to retire soon, George. I'm going to get that little place down in Southend. I'm finally going to enjoy life. Hey, maybe you'd better retire soon yourself, George. Your health hasn't been very good lately. 2 jobs must really be rough on you now.
Oh, I'll be all right. I'm going to take that trip around the world, just like I always wanted to. Besides, if I retire now, what's your bank going to do for money? Well, bye for now.
Good afternoon, George. Bye.
Good afternoon, Jane. Am I on time today?
Jane? Jane?
What? You're not Jane. Where's Jane? I always do business with her.
You mean that old woman? She dropped dead 3 days ago. Had a stroke on the way to work.
Dead? I can't believe it. She was going to retire next week.
Well, that's life.
Oh, Jane dead. Just like that. Oh my God. Say, wait a minute. Listen here, young man. I want to withdraw my account now. Everything.
What's your number?
It's 903723.
903723.
903723. Poor Jane. She just made that last down payment on that house in Southend. She was going to move in a week, and now, finished. Say, wait a minute, I'm getting old too. I've got to take that trip around the world now. I've got to enjoy life.
Hold on, sir. Something's wrong here.
What's that? What's wrong?
Your number's not 903723. All these years, you've been putting your money in the wrong bank account.
What? What? Now you look here. I've been depositing in this bank now for 50 years. Do you hear me? 50 years. And you mean to tell me that all these years I've been putting my money in the wrong...
So that brings us to the end of this chapter. Please do not deposit your money in the wrong bank account. Try to deposit all your resources that you have in the right bank account. That is Krishna's bank account, the spiritual bank account. And that will give you eternal return on investment. Yes, you may need a local bank account, fiat bank account, but ultimately, let's increase our spiritual bank account, and this will be our greatest blessing and benediction. Thank you very much. We will not take any questions or feedback, and questions we will take tomorrow during our feedback sessions. Thank you. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Manohar.
Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.